I sit at my parents' kitchen table, the same maple surface where I did homework for 15 years, and notice how the finish has worn away in the spots where our plates always sat. Mom busies herself at the stove, periodically glancing at Dad, who's pouring wine with unusual generosity. "More mashed potatoes, April?" Mom asks, her voice pitched unnaturally high. "I'm good." I watch as she heaps a second serving onto Troy's plate without waiting for his answer. My brother barely notices, thumbs tapping furiously on his phone screen. His wife Jessica fusses over their 8-year-old Mason, cutting his meat into precisely equal squares. "Isn't it nice? All of us together on a Tuesday?" Mom continues, smoothing her apron. "So rare these days with everyone's schedules." I nod, taking a sip of wine to hide my frown. A Tuesday night family dinner with no occasion. The good china. Dad's retirement watch gleaming on his wrist. Mom's pearl earrings that only emerge for church and graduations. Something's wrong. Troy and Dad exchange a look. Mom drops her fork with a clatter. "April." Mom clears her throat. "We need to discuss something important about Mason's future." The air shifts. I set down my glass. Dad slides an official-looking document across the table toward me. Bank letterhead. Loan paperwork. My stomach tightens as I scan the top page. $40,000 college fund co-signing agreement. "It's just a formality," Troy says, setting his phone down for the first time tonight. His rehearsed tone makes my skin prickle. The bank needs a second signature with solid credit, someone responsible. The compliment lands hollow. I flip to the second page, where my name is already typed in the co-signer field. "You finally have that bonus money," Mom says, reaching for my hand. Her eyes well with practiced tears. Family helps family. The realization blooms cold in my chest. This dinner wasn't spontaneous. The invitation, the fancy settings, the unusual Tuesday, gathering a calculated ambush. They've been planning this for weeks. I look at my nephew Mason, innocently pushing peas into patterns, unaware he's the emotional pawn in tonight's game. The kitchen dissolves around me, replaced by the fluorescent lights of Palmer's Pharmacy 12 years ago. 16-year-old me counting pills into bottles after school while other kids went to football games. My textbooks spread on the break room table during my 30-minute dinner, studying for AP exams that might earn me scholarships. My parents never came to my science competitions, but Troy's football games? They had custom sweatshirts made. The day my full-ride acceptance letter arrived, Mom had glanced up from preparing Troy's favorite dinner. "That's nice, dear. Could you set the table?" 2 months later, they threw Troy a college send-off party with 50 guests. I celebrated my scholarship alone with a single cupcake bought from the bakery where I'd picked up summer shifts. The interest rate is reasonable, Dad says now, tapping the paper with his index finger, pulling me back to the present. And Mason's future depends on this foundation. My throat tightens. I need time to think about this. Troy's jaw clenches. The bank appointment is already scheduled for Thursday. Thursday? My voice rises. That's 2 days from now. "After everything we've done for you," Mom interjects, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. I nearly laugh. What exactly had they done? I paid my way through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, $60,000 in student loans that I finally paid off last month. No co-signers on those papers. Dad leans forward, his voice dropping to that commanding tone he used when I stayed out past curfew. "This is what family does, April." "Excuse me," I mutter, pushing back from the table. "Bathroom." I lock the door behind me, grip the cool edge of the sink, and splash water on my face. In the mirror, my grandmother's eyes stare back at me. Gran, who raised 3 kids alone after Grandpa died. Who taught me to stand tall when it felt easier to shrink. "Your life belongs to you first." She used to whisper when I'd cry about Troy getting the bigger bedroom, the newer bike, the louder praise. My hands tremble as I dry my face. They expect me to walk back in there and sign away my financial future for a nephew whose college fund should have been started by his parents years ago. For a brother who's never once helped me. For parents who see me as the reliable backup plan. I straighten my shoulders, my grandmother's strength flowing into my spine. Thursday's bank appointment is already in their calendar. But my answer doesn't have to be the one they've scheduled. Have you ever been ambushed by family expecting your financial support? That moment when you realize the casual dinner invitation was actually a carefully orchestrated trap? Share your experience in the comments below. The next morning, the morning sun slants through my apartment blinds as I stare at my laptop screen, coffee forgotten beside me. My fingers hover over the keyboard, frozen by what I'm seeing. Account access, 6:42 p.m. Tuesday. The company benefits portal logs every login. Yesterday, hours before the casual family dinner, someone viewed my bonus details from an IP address I don't recognize. I pick up my phone, scrolling to a contact I rarely use. 3 rings. Accounting department, Sylvia speaking. Hi, Sylvia. It's April Donovan. Quick question, does Kathy Moore's daughter still work in IT? A pause. Lisa? Yes, but what's this about? The pieces click together like a puzzle I never wanted to solve. Lisa Moore, my mother's best friend's daughter, the woman who sends mom birthday cards every year. Who works in IT security. Just checking. Thanks. I hang up before she can ask more questions. My bank statement shows it clearly. $15,200 deposited last Friday. The exact amount mom mentioned at dinner, down to the dollar. They knew precisely what I had. My phone buzzes. Troy again, his 5th call since I walked out last night. I let it ring through to voicemail, then open my text messages. I scroll back weeks, finding the group chat I muted long ago. Troy. She just got her bonus. Mom confirmed amount. Dinner strategy still on for Tuesday? Dad. Confirmed. Your mother's making her favorite meal. Troy. Perfect. She won't see it coming. My stomach twists as if someone punched me. I slam the laptop closed and cross to my closet, dragging out the old cardboard box I've moved with me to every apartment since college. Inside, beneath yearbooks and school certificates, I find my childhood diary with the broken lock. May 15. Mom and Dad bought Troy a car for graduation. They gave me a card with $50. The 3rd of September, missed my science competition because Troy had a scrimmage. Dad said, there'll be other competitions. The 25th of December, Troy got the new computer. I got clothes for school. Page after page of documented favoritism, written in increasingly smaller handwriting, as if I was trying to make my complaints take up less space just like I always did at home. At the bottom of the box lies a folder of loan documents. My name alone on every page. No co-signers. No parental support. My phone rings again. Troy. What? I snap, answering against my better judgment. You need to stop being difficult, he says, skipping hello. Mom's been crying all morning. I'm not signing those papers. Family helps family, April. What would Gran say if she saw you being so selfish? The mention of my grandmother makes my blood boil. Don't you dare use Gran against me. She taught me to stand on my own feet, something you never learned. Look, Mason needs this. It's his future. Why can't you or Mom and Dad co-sign? Why me? His pause tells me everything. Because your credit score is better, he finally admits. Dad's retirement affected their score, and Jessica and I have the house mortgage. So I'm the backup plan. You're being dramatic. Dad says you're embarrassing the family. People at church are asking questions. My doorbell rings. I peer through the peephole to see Jessica standing there, perfectly styled as always. I have to go, I mutter, hanging up. Before I can decide whether to open the door, my phone chimes with a work email. From Janice in HR, is everything all right? I received a concerning call from a relative of yours about your difficult time. I nearly dropped the phone. They're calling my workplace now? The doorbell rings again, more insistent. However, I don't answer, and prepare for work, as I had a meeting later that morning. At work later, Margaret from the research lab drops into the chair beside my desk. At 62, she's seen it all, her salt and pepper curls framing a face that doesn't suffer fools. You look like you haven't slept, she says, pushing a coffee toward me. Family troubles? I hesitate. How did you know? Your brother called the front desk asking about you. Something about a family emergency. She leans closer. I told reception you were in a meeting all day. Thanks, I whisper, relief washing over me. It's complicated. Family usually is. Margaret's eyes narrow. My sister tried the same thing when our father died. Wanted me to mortgage my house to save hers. She points a finger at me. People who use family as a weapon don't deserve your sacrifice. My phone buzzes with a text from my best friend Rachel. Just checking in. Want to grab dinner tonight? Before I can respond, Troy's name flashes on my screen. April, we need to talk. I already spent some of the college fund money on. I decline the call, my heart pounding. He's already spent the money? Money that doesn't exist yet? My desk phone rings. A local number I don't recognize. Hello, April. This is Mark Jenkins from First Federal. I'm calling about the family account your father mentioned. I hang up, my hands shaking. That evening, my mother's number appears on my phone. For the first time in my adult life, I decline a family dinner invitation. I can't make it tonight, I say firmly. Or Thursday. April Catherine Donovan, her voice breaks. You're breaking your father's heart. I end the call and notice something strange. My hands have stopped trembling. The next morning, Troy appears in the lobby of my building, voice echoing through the atrium. I need to see my sister. It's a family emergency. My coworkers watch as I meet him at the security desk. You need to leave, I tell him, loud enough for everyone to hear. Not until you agree to sign those papers, he hisses. No. The word feels foreign but powerful on my tongue. The answer is no. As security escorts him out, I feel the weight of stares and whispers, but straighten my shoulders and walk back to my desk. On Sunday that week, the church bulletin board looms before me, displaying family announcements in cheerful script. I've barely stepped through the heavy wooden doors when Uncle Roger materializes at my elbow. There's my favorite niece, he says, his hand clamping my shoulder. Your mother tells me you're having some trouble understanding family obligations. Before I can respond, Aunt Cheryl appears on my other side. Mason is such a bright boy. Shame if his potential went to waste because of pride. Their coordinated attack continues through coffee hour, relatives appearing with rehearsed arguments whenever I try to escape. Pastor Williams even corners me beside the hymnal shelf. The good book tells us family comes first, April. Your parents have prayed about this matter extensively. So, my stomach knots. Prayers about my bank account. How convenient. Monday morning brings a crisp white envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside, a single line typed in bold. Ungrateful daughters burn in hell. The paper trembles in my hand. Troy calls that evening, his voice thick with practiced tears. Mason asked why Aunt April doesn't love him enough to help with college. My 8-year-old nephew, suddenly concerned about higher education financing. At Hannaford's, on Tuesday, Mrs. Peterson, who's known me since kindergarten, studies the contents of my shopping cart and sniffs. Some people remember where they came from, she mutters, loud enough for other shoppers to hear. The final straw comes Wednesday, when Dad appears at my workplace reception desk, his retirement watch gleaming under fluorescent lights. Need to speak with my daughter, he tells the receptionist with the authoritative tone that once sent me scurrying to my room. Family emergency. I meet him in the lobby, arms crossed. This is inappropriate. What's inappropriate is abandoning your family when they need you. His voice carries to my colleagues passing through security. Thursday, 10 o'clock. The loan officer is expecting us. That night, I stare at my tiny apartment ceiling, calculating how many hours remain until I'm expected to sign away my financial future. My company email pings at 9:17 p.m. Biomedical research position, San Francisco branch expansion. Qualified internal candidates encouraged to apply immediately. I blink at the screen. The job description matches my skills perfectly. 3 minutes later, Margaret from HR texts, "Did you see the posting? Application deadline Friday. Your experience with the Carlton project makes you perfect." For the first time in days, I breathe deeply. 3,000 miles of geographical insulation. The possibility unfurls like a map showing an escape route. I apply at midnight, fingers flying across my keyboard. Thursday arrives with my anxiety, yet I do not meet my father in the morning and do not sign anything. However, the evening arrives with another ambush. This one, at my parents' house where I've been summoned to talk things through reasonably. I freeze in the doorway, counting heads. Troy and Jessica, Mom and Dad, Pastor Williams, Uncle Roger and Aunt Cheryl, 2 church elders, and my cousin Stephanie who works at the bank. An intervention, Troy announces, chest puffed with righteousness, because we're worried about your spiritual welfare. For 20 minutes, I sit silently as Troy delivers what sounds like a practice sermon on Christian duty and family obligation. Mother dabs at her eyes with a handkerchief I recognize from her community theater performances. "After all we sacrificed for you," she whispers, voice breaking perfectly on cue. The room hums with murmurs of agreement. "Your grandmother would be so disappointed," Aunt Cheryl adds, though she barely knew Gran. Something snaps inside me. My grandmother taught me to stand on my own feet. "You always were difficult," Dad sighs. "Difficult?" The word escapes like steam from a pressure cooker. I worked every summer since 15. I earned my scholarship. I paid my student loans without a cosigner or family help. I sacrificed too. Troy lunges forward. This isn't about you. It never is. I stand, surprised by my steady hands. And that's the problem. Later that night, after quarreling and they have left, Rachel helps me pack essentials into unmarked boxes stored in her garage. They really thought a prayer circle would convince you to sign a loan? They thought God would back up their financial plan. I wrap my grandmother's china teacup in bubble wrap. The San Francisco HR department called. They want a virtual interview tomorrow. On Friday morning, I accepted the California position with a significant raise. Margaret rearranged my work schedule without questions. Family emergency, she tells my supervisor with a conspiratorial wink. I also checked my one-way ticket scheduled for Wednesday next week. My elderly neighbor, Mr. Wilson, agrees to collect my mail. Had to escape my own brother's schemes back in 2082, he confides. Sometimes distance is the only language they understand. Each action builds momentum. On Monday morning, bank accounts transfer to West Coast branches. Mail forwarding gets established. That same day, I made my final student loan payment. I celebrated alone with sparkling cider in a plastic cup. The symmetry feels right, beginning and ending my financial independence journey in solitude. On Tuesday, while cleaning out my desk drawer, I found Gran's letter from my college graduation day. The yellowed paper unfolds to reveal her careful handwriting. Your life belongs to you first, April. Choose wisely who gets pieces of it. Love doesn't demand bankruptcy of spirit or wallet. That night, I cry for the first time since this began. Not from fear or guilt, but from recognition. In the morning mirror, I see Gran's determined eyes staring back at me. My goodbye letter takes 3 drafts. Not apologizing proves hardest. I place it in an envelope addressed to my parents, leaving it on my kitchen counter next to a check for $500 toward Mason's future. A gift, not an obligation. The California lease agreement arrives by email. My signature flows easily across the electronic document. The weight on my chest lightens with each letter. My phone buzzes with Troy's text. Dad's getting the papers notarized. Be at the bank Thursday at 10 a.m. I don't respond, just check my flight itinerary one final time. Wednesday departure, one-way ticket. And that's how I just left that Wednesday night. The rideshare driver helped load my 2 suitcases at the airport after I arrived to San Francisco. Big trip? The biggest, I respond, ready to accept my new life away from my family. As the car merges onto the highway away from the airport, I watch the city's skyline through the window. With each step closer to my new life, my smile grows wider, stretching toward a California horizon where no one waits with papers for me to sign. California sunshine streams through unfamiliar curtains as I stretch on the bed of my hotel where I am staying until the end of this week. I am moving to my new apartment on Sunday. My phone remains deliberately off, sitting on the nightstand like a dormant bomb. Right now, my family is assembling at First Boston National Bank, checking watches and growing increasingly irritated by my absence. My meticulous planning led to this moment. I think back to the family Sunday dinners I attended, with practiced smiles. The careful way I responded to Troy's persistent questions about the loan, with vague phrases like, "I'm still looking into it," and, "The timing isn't ideal right now." I remember how my family forced me, especially my father. "The appointment's confirmed for Thursday at 10. You'll be there." Not a question, a command. I nodded non-committally while loading the dishwasher, buying precious time as my escape plan solidified. Last night, while they slept in their comfortable suburban homes, I boarded Flight 1422 to San Francisco. As the plane lifted through Massachusetts clouds, I felt the weight of 30 years of obligation fall away. My chest expanded with each mile west. I slide open the hotel room curtains wider, allowing myself to fully absorb the Pacific light. 3,000 miles now separate me from the bank where Troy paces the lobby, checking his watch every 30 seconds. My phone buzzes to life when I finally power it on. The barrage is immediate. 17 missed calls, 32 text messages. Mom's voicemail plays first, her voice trembling. "April, where are you? Everyone's waiting. Please call immediately." Dad's message is clipped, authoritative. "This is unacceptable behavior. Call now." By the 5th voicemail, Troy's tone has transformed from irritation to panic. "If you're doing what I think you're doing, there will be consequences." Legal consequences. I scroll through the texts as I sip room service coffee. The latest from Mom sends an unexpected chill. We've contacted the police. You're officially a missing person. My fingers hover over the keyboard before tapping out a response to my old supervisor at work. They've escalated to missing persons. Just as we anticipated. The reply comes quickly. HR blocked their information requests this morning. Your employment status is confidential. Relax and enjoy California. I open my laptop and navigate to the email draft I prepared weeks ago. One deep breath, then I hit send. The comprehensive account of Troy's manipulation, my parents' enabling, and the systematic financial pressure now reaches our extended family. Included are screenshots of Troy's texts planning the dinner strategy and Mom's access to my company benefits portal. My phone rings, Boston Police Department. The officer's voice is professionally neutral. Miss Donovan, we're following up on a missing persons report filed by your parents. I'm not missing, I reply, my voice steadier than it's been in months. I moved for work, voluntarily. That's what we figured, he says, the hint of a smile in his voice. We'll inform your family you're safe. A notification appears, a private message from Jessica, Troy's wife. I understand why you left. He does this to everyone. Be safe. Throughout the afternoon, my support network activates like a well-rehearsed orchestra. Rachel confirms to my frantic mother that I'm safe and well but need space. Margaret sends a brief text. Office gossip shut down. Your replacement story is holding. Enjoy the Sunday, mister. Wilson, my elderly neighbor, reports that my parents appeared at my old apartment demanding access. Told them you'd moved on. Legally, properly, they left disappointed. My new California supervisor sends a welcome email introducing me to the team, no questions asked about my sudden arrival date change. Tonight, they've arranged a casual dinner. As evening approaches, the family facade begins showing its first cracks. Mom's church friend Betsy messages, your mother's telling everyone you had a breakdown. Several of us suggested she respect your privacy. I always told her you deserved better. Uncle Frank, Dad's older brother, emails, got your explanation. Not surprised. Troy's had his hand out for years. Bank called me about his previous loan applications after your no-show. Things unraveling here. I step onto the hotel balcony, watching the sun sink toward the Pacific. For the first time in months, genuine laughter bubbles from my chest. Unexpected, liberating. 3,000 miles of distance has accomplished what years of conversations could not. Freedom tastes like California air, crisp and full of possibility. The welcome dinner notification pings on my calendar. New colleagues, new beginning, no history. I dress carefully, appreciating how my shoulders have already relaxed away from my ears. As I prepare to leave, one final text appears, from Mason, Troy's 8-year-old son, obviously using Jessica's phone. Aunt April, when can I visit California? I smile, typing back, someday soon, buddy, someday soon. 3 months later, I am dealing with projects, meetings, new clients, without anyone forcing me to do anything I don't want. However, one Tuesday afternoon, the certified letter arrives at work. Official stamp, my father's precise handwriting. Inside, a single page. Your mother collapsed yesterday. Doctors aren't sure why. We need you home. My hands tremble, but my mind stays clear. 3 months of California sunshine hasn't erased 28 years of manipulation. I dial the hospital directly. No patient under my mother's name. Looking for creative ways to make you answer. Margaret comments during our lunch break on a video call. She recognizes family manipulation tactics better than most therapists. What's the count now? 5 and 3 days, I say, scrolling through my phone. Mother's tearful video message yesterday. Troy uses his son for a video call for manipulation. Pastor calling about spiritual healing. And now this letter. Margaret butters her roll with methodical precision. They're escalating because you're winning. On Saturday morning, as I was working from my apartment, an email notification pings. Legal notice about family trust obligations from a law firm I've never heard of. A quick search reveals no such firm exists in Massachusetts. My phone vibrates with Troy's name. Against better judgment, I answer. Mason wants to say goodbye before. Troy's voice breaks perfectly on cue. Before what, Troy? Before he stops asking about you. Kid doesn't understand why his aunt abandoned him. The old guilt rises, but something new rises faster. Anger, clean and clarifying. Put Mason on if he's actually there, I say. A pause. He's at school. It's Saturday. The call ends abruptly. 3 more messages arrive before evening. Mother's health declining from stress of abandonment. Parents selling grandmother's china cabinet promised to me since childhood. A former neighbor calling my supervisor about my concerning behavior back east. I sit in my apartment, windows open to the coastal breeze, and make my decision. Monday morning I send one email. Family video call. Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. All of you together. Their responses flood in immediately. Mother's tearful acceptance, father's stern agreement, Troy's smug certainty. The apartment fills with sunset light Thursday evening as I arrange my laptop precisely. Behind me, no family photos, only my degrees and certification awards. I've prepared for this moment like a surgeon for a complicated operation. At exactly 7 o'clock, I click Join Meeting. Their faces appear in boxes across my screen. Father at the head of their kitchen table, mother dabbing tissues beside him, Troy and Jessica with Mason visible in the background, Pastor Wilson in the corner. 3 sets of aunts and uncles I barely recognize. April, father begins, authority coating his voice. We've gathered as a family to discuss your concerning behavior and… I'll be speaking first, I interrupt, my voice steadier than it's ever been addressing him. I have prepared remarks and evidence that requires your full attention. Mother starts to protest, but father raises his hand to silence her, curiosity briefly overriding his need for control. 3 months ago, you ambushed me with demands to co-sign a $40,000 loan for Mason's college fund. I begin, screen sharing a meticulously organized timeline. Since then, you've escalated to increasingly desperate tactics, which I've documented fully. Troy shifts forward. This is ridiculous. We're trying to secure our son's future, and you're treating us like criminals. You told First National Bank the money was for Mason's education, I reply, clicking to the next slide. But I have you on record telling your poker buddy it would cover your gambling debts. The recording plays, Troy's unmistakable voice. April's bonus is exactly what I need to clear the tables. Once she signs, I'll worry about Mason's college later. Silence falls like a physical weight. Jessica's head snaps toward Troy. I continue methodically through my evidence. Bank statements proving my parents have sufficient assets to guarantee the loan themselves. My student loan history versus Troy's fully funded education. Childhood diary entries documenting systematic favoritism. But perhaps most compelling, I say, clicking forward, is this analysis showing that this pattern has repeated throughout our lives. Troy receives. I provide. From bedrooms to birthdays to college tuition. Father's face has turned to stone. Mother's tears have stopped, replaced by something harder. You're twisting everything, Troy shouts, slamming his hand on their table. This is what families do. They help each other. Like you helped me with my student loans? I ask. Like you helped when I needed a co-signer for my first apartment? The assistance has only ever flowed one direction. Aunt Meredith speaks up from her square. Robert, is this true? That April paid her own way through college while you covered Troy's expenses? Father can't meet her eyes. My financial decisions are not family property. I state, looking directly into the camera. I'm willing to establish a relationship moving forward, but only under new terms. The kitchen behind them is so quiet I can hear the wall clock ticking. No contact for 6 months. I continue. After that, we can reassess based on everyone's behavior. Any attempt to manipulate me or contact my workplace will reset the clock. Father opens his mouth, closes it. For the first time in my life, I've rendered him speechless. In his eyes, behind the anger, flickers something unexpected. Respect. Troy stands abruptly. This is bulls. The rest of his sentence cuts off as he storms away from the camera. Mother leans forward, her hand reaching toward the screen like she could touch me across 3,000 miles. April, She pauses, swallows. I'm sorry. I didn't see what we were doing. It's the first genuine apology I've heard from her since childhood. 6 months, I repeat, my finger hovering over the disconnect button. Your move. I end the call on my terms, not theirs. The silence in my apartment feels different now, like the quiet after a storm passes, like freedom. I stretch my arms toward the ceiling of my California apartment, sunlight streaming through windows that actually face the morning sky. 6 months in this space with an actual living room, and I still smile every time I pad across the hardwood floors in my bare feet. My phone buzzes with another congratulatory message about yesterday's promotion. The entire research team gathered with genuine champagne, not the grocery store, sparkling wine my parents served when Troy got his first job after college. Breakfast on the balcony? Ellie texts, my downstairs neighbor turned friend who accepts my occasional need for quiet weekends without question. My new circle here understands boundaries aren't walls, they're healthy perimeters that make relationships possible. I glance at my calendar, where next month's vacation to Sedona glows in bold letters. My bonus money, spent on desert sunrises instead of someone else's obligation. The peaceful ritual of morning coffee, without dreading the family ringtone, follows me onto the balcony. At work, Caitlin, a new lab assistant, hovers near my desk, clutching her phone. Everything okay? I ask. Her eyes glisten. My brother needs co-signers for his business loan. My parents are pressuring me, but I just started paying off my student loans. 6 months ago, I'd have mumbled awkward sympathy. Today, I pull up a chair. Your success belongs to you, I tell her, my voice steady. You're not wrong for protecting it. The words flow without bitterness. Later, declining a request from a colleague feels simple. My no emerges without the guilt that once twisted my stomach into knots. Back home, Gran's letter hangs framed beside my degrees. Your life belongs to you first. No longer hidden in a drawer but displayed proudly, like the woman I've become. Twice monthly therapy sessions have helped me understand the patterns carved into my childhood. The golden child dynamic isn't your creation or your responsibility, my therapist reminded me last week. The realization landed differently than before, settled rather than stinging. Weekends now include volunteer work at a women's financial literacy program. Last Sunday, I met Eric there, a curriculum developer whose gentle questions never probe beyond my offered boundaries. His hand in mine feels like invitation, not demand. Cousins from my mother's side reached out after my departure, distant family bridges rebuilt on mutual respect rather than obligation. Last night, I realized I hadn't thought about the loan in weeks. The space it once occupied now filled with actual living. Mother's letters arrive monthly now, hesitant at first, then increasingly sincere. I never considered how differently we treated you and Troy, she wrote recently. Dad's stubborn silence has softened to brief text messages about weather and baseball scores. Small steps across a wide gulf. From Rachel, news that Troy faces foreclosure without my financial safety net. Jessica brought Mason to visit last month without telling Troy her quiet rebellion against years of enabling his demands. Thanksgiving approaches, and my dining table will host the family I've chosen, Ellie, co-workers, neighbors who've become friends. Margaret visits next week during her retirement celebration trip. Rachel flies in Thursday, already planning her toast to the woman who chose herself. Mr. Wilson's congratulatory letter sits on my desk, his careful penmanship reminding me that courage looks different at every age. Yesterday marked my freedom anniversary with a small cupcake, a tradition I'll continue yearly. This morning, I opened a savings account specifically for Mason's education, my terms, my choice. The note I'll give him on his 16th birthday already drafted. Your future is yours to build, but support should come freely. Bye. I close my laptop on today's completed project, carrying my tea to the balcony. The Pacific stretches before me, vast and glittering. Standing with arms outstretched, face warmed by sunset, I finally understand freedom isn't the absence of family but the presence of choice. Have you ever had to set firm boundaries with family? How did they respond when they realized you wouldn't back down? My phone buzzes against the metal nurse's station counter, the fraud alert notification cutting through the steady beep of monitors in the ICU. 12 hours into my shift, my eyes burn from fatigue as I tap the screen. The number that appears makes my stomach drop. $7,250. Unauthorized charge. I nearly drop my stethoscope, my hands suddenly trembling as I read further. 5 airline tickets to Santorini, purchased today. I scroll through the transaction details, each name appearing like a slap. Richard and Lillian Vale, Spencer and Reagan Vale, and Megan Tanner, Reagan's best friend since college. My name is nowhere on the list. The final detail hits like a blow to the chest. The transaction used my own credit card. Just last week, I sat at my parents' gleaming cherrywood dining table, watching Mom fold her linen napkin with perfect hospital corners. Her voice had been casual, almost bored. Tickets are $1,450 each. If you can't afford that, it's best you sit this one out. I had nodded, swallowing around the lump in my throat, not admitting that after covering Spencer's car repair last month, my savings were thin. Their dismissal had stung, but this was theft. That night I'd returned to work, staring at patient charts while fighting back tears. Dr. Stevens had passed me in the hallway, his eyes catching mine before quickly looking away. He'd seen this before Corinne, returning from family gatherings with red-rimmed eyes, throwing herself into her work, as though she could scrub away disappointment with antiseptic and focused care. Now, standing in the same hospital corridor, I unlock my phone with steady purpose. The trembling in my hands subsides as I call the credit card company, locking my account and filing a dispute. The representative's voice is soothing, validating. "This is clearly fraud, Miss Vale. We'll handle it." My phone chirps with an incoming text half an hour after I end the call. "Spencer, something's wrong with the tickets. Can you fix it?" I stand straighter, shoulders back, as I type. "Like you said, I stayed behind." The hospital corridor suddenly feels different, brighter somehow. I change every password I have, from banking apps to email accounts. My Amazon account, where they'd clearly stored my credit card information. My Apple ID. Everything. A weight lifts from my chest as I tuck my phone away and return to my patients. Mr. Jenkins needs his medication, and Mrs. Torres will want an update on her husband's surgery. Their needs are clear, honest, unlike my family's Torres. Within an hour, my phone vibrates continuously in my pocket. Missed calls from Mom, Dad, Spencer, Reagan. Voicemails stack up alongside increasingly frantic texts. "What's wrong with you?" "Dad's furious. They're going to miss their flight." I silence my phone, sliding it into my locker during my brief lunch break. My hands no longer shake. Instead, a strange calm settles over me as I realize what's at stake. I'll be the difficult daughter now, the one who ruined the family trip, the ungrateful nurse who doesn't understand what family means. For the first time, I see it clearly. I've never been their daughter or sister. I've been their financial safety net, the responsible one they call when bills come due or emergencies arise, the one who gives and gives while they take and take. Standing before my locker, I press my palm against the cool metal. "Not anymore," I whisper, the words a promise to myself. By the time my shift ends, there are 17 missed calls, 9 voicemails, and 32 text messages. I delete them all without listening or reading, the weight of obligation falling away with each tap of my finger. Tomorrow, they'll try again. They'll escalate. They'll manipulate. But tonight, for the first time in years, I drive home without their voices in my head telling me what I owe them. My apartment feels hollow tonight, the silence broken only by the hum of my refrigerator and the occasional car passing outside. 3 days have passed since I locked my credit card and changed all my passwords. I've been screening calls, deleting voicemails, and working extra shifts to avoid thinking about what comes next. The call from my bank changes everything. "Miss Vale, we've completed our preliminary investigation," says Marcus, the fraud specialist I've been working with. His voice carries a note of concern that makes my stomach tighten. "There's something you should know about the Santorini charges." I sit heavily on my couch, one hand clutching my phone, the other pressed against my chest. "What did you find?" "The authorized user account that made those purchases, it belongs to Spencer Vale." My breathing exercises fail me as my heart races against my ribs. That's impossible. I removed Spencer as an authorized user 2 years ago when he got married. According to our records, the account was reactivated 4 months ago through our online portal using your login credentials. The room tilts slightly. Not an impulse theft. Not a desperate moment. 4 months of planning, of deliberate deception. From my own brother. There's more. Marcus continues, his voice gentle now. "We've found a pattern of smaller purchases dating back to when the account was reactivated. Electronics stores, restaurants, sporting goods." I press my eyes shut as memories flash through my mind like a sickening slideshow. The lease I co-signed for Spencer's first apartment, the emergency loan when Reagan's car broke down, the expensive birthday gifts I couldn't afford but bought anyway because that's what family does. 12 years of financial support, culminating in theft. The total unauthorized charges, including the airline tickets, come to $9,540. My breathing steadies as something hardens inside me. "Thank you, Marcus. I want to pursue this to the fullest extent. We'll continue our investigation, Miss Vale. In the meantime..." My phone beeps with an incoming call. "Mom. Again. I need to go," I tell Marcus. Please email me your findings. I switch to Mom's call, putting it on speaker as I stand and walk to my living room window. Rain patters against the glass, distorting the streetlights below into watery stars. Corinne, this has gone on long enough. Mom's voice fills my apartment, sharp with impatience. Your father and I have been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy. The rain intensifies, matching my mood. Too busy to respond to your family? Spencer and Reagan are devastated about their trip. Their trip on my credit card. Dad's voice cuts in. Honey, this is all just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, I repeat, watching raindrops race down my window. Is that what we're calling fraud now? You're overreacting, Dad says, his tone dismissive. These things happen in families. Theft happens in families? Good to know. Spencer's voice joins the chorus. Sis, I meant to ask you first. Things got hectic with planning, and I just stole $9,000 from me? My voice remains steady, surprising me. It wasn't like that. Reagan's tearful voice pierces through. You're ruining everything for everyone because you're jealous. You always do this, make everything about you when we're trying to be happy. I press my forehead against the cool glass. How long have you known Spencer was using my card, Mom? The silence stretches until Mom clears her throat. Well, he mentioned borrowing it for some small things. We assumed you were aware. You assumed. The rain blurs the world outside, matching my vision. Is this how you repay everything we've done for you? Mom's voice hardens. After all the sacrifices we made? Your father's retirement party is next month. How will this look? I turn away from the window. Like theft has consequences? Don't be dramatic, Dad interjects. Remember who co-signed your nursing school loans. This family has always supported you. The threat isn't subtle. I sit at my kitchen table, calculating exactly what financial independence will cost. Refinancing my loans, possibly changing jobs, if Dad makes calls to his hospital board friends, finding a new apartment my family doesn't have keys to. You need help, Corinne, Spencer says, his voice dripping with concern that doesn't reach his words. I'm worried about you. Everyone at the hospital knows how hard you've been working. If they heard about this mental breakdown, don't threaten me, Spencer. My voice comes out low and dangerous, startling even myself. My phone chirps with an email notification. From Marcus. Subject line, fraud investigation, confirmation. I need to go. I say, cutting off whatever new manipulation was coming. The bank's fraud department just confirmed my dispute is valid. They're launching a full investigation. I end the call before they can respond, opening the email instead. Official letterhead, case number, confirmation that all charges will be reversed pending investigation. As I set my phone down that night, I wonder if I should simply distance myself from my family or formally document every penny they've taken. Cutting ties might bring immediate peace, but creating a record might force accountability. What would you do when those who should protect you become the ones you need protection from? 2 days later, the supervisor's office feels smaller than usual as she slides a printed email across her desk. The fluorescent lights cast shadows under her eyes, making her concern look more like suspicion. Your mother called yesterday. Director Palmer taps the paper with her French-tipped nail. She's worried about your mental health. The words land like a slap. I keep my face neutral, though my pulse quickens. My mental health is fine. She mentioned erratic behavior, mood swings. Director Palmer studies me with the same careful assessment she uses for unstable patients. Said you've been working too many shifts. I work exactly the hours I'm scheduled. My voice remains steady, despite the heat rising up my neck. Plus the occasional voluntary overtime. She suggested you might be having a breakdown from overwork. Of course she did. I picture Mom on the phone, voice honeyed with concern, while systematically undermining my credibility at the one place I feel competent and valued. My performance reviews are excellent, I say. My patient care is uncompromised. Director Palmer nods slowly. That's why I found the call. Concerning? I leave her office with my evaluation signed exceeds expectations in every category, but my hands tremble with rage as I turn my phone back on. 3 missed calls from Aunt Judith, 1 from my cousin Melissa. A text from Dad's golf buddy asking if everything's okay. Spencer's social media updates flash on my screen. Some family ties are more like chains. Toxic people never admit when they're the problem. Reagan's tearful selfie beneath it has 17 sympathetic comments. They're building a fortress of manufactured concern around me, and it's working. Back home, I check my accounts, a habit that now sends my heart racing. The emergency fund I've maintained since nursing school has dwindled by almost $4,000. Connected accounts. Automatic transfers I never authorized. I sink onto my bed, breathing exercises, failing to slow my galloping pulse. For 3 years, I've covered Spencer's car insurance, just until he gets that promotion. Last Christmas, I paid for Mom's knee surgery copay when Dad was temporarily short, Reagan's graduate school application fees. Each night, I lie awake, calculating the total. $9,540 and counting. The number cycles through my mind at 3 a.m. when sleep should come. At 4 a.m., I finally drift off, only to jolt awake an hour later, wondering what else they've taken that I haven't discovered yet. I start keeping meticulous records. Every check I've written, every Venmo transfer with a cheerful emoji that masked my growing resentment, every credit card charge that wasn't mine. Just gathering documentation for my accountant, I tell the bank representative who helps me access 2 years of transaction history later that morning. His eyes hold a flash of recognition. He's seen this before. My phone continues to buzz with concerned relatives. Each night, I record audio notes in a password-protected app. The 12th of April. Spencer claimed his checking account was frozen due to suspected fraud. Borrowed $600 for rent. Still hasn't repaid despite 3 promotions since then. May 29th. Mom suggested I was being obsessive about money when I mentioned Spencer's unpaid loans. The 8th of July. Dad claimed he never heard about Spencer using my credit card until now, despite being at the airport with him when the charges were declined. The recording keeps my thoughts ordered, when their voices threaten to drown out my own certainty. Wednesday morning next week, I arrive for my shift, to find a coffee cup on the nurse's station counter with my name written on it. Doctor. Stevens nods from across the corridor, his silver hair catching the light. Under the cup is a folded note. Whatever you're going through, you're handling it with grace. Some family trees need pruning to stay healthy. The small kindness nearly breaks me. I tuck the note into my pocket and carry its weight like armor through my shift. That evening, a knock at my apartment door makes my stomach clench. Through the peephole, I see Dad's weathered face, the familiar creases around his eyes deeper than usual. Your mother sent me to reason with you, he says as soon as I open the door, not bothering with hello. This whole thing is getting out of hand. I step back, allowing him in but maintaining distance. It got out of hand when you watched Spencer steal from me and said nothing. Dad sighs heavily, setting his keys on my counter with the presumption of someone who expects to stay a while. Look, I know Spencer made a mistake. A mistake is accidental. He deliberately used my card for months. He's offering to pay back half, Dad says, like he's presenting a generous settlement. We can smooth this over before your mother's birthday next month. I laugh, the sound hollow even to my own ears. Half of money that was stolen from me. He's family, Corinne. So am I. The words come out stronger than I expected. I'm not angry that you need help. I'm angry that you took without asking. Dad's face shifts, surprise replacing his practiced patience. We didn't. You did, all of you, for years. I realize as I say it that it's true. This isn't about one credit card charge. It's about a lifetime of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who gives until there's nothing left. We're your family, Dad repeats, as if the word alone should erase everything. Family asks. Family respects boundaries. Family doesn't drain someone's emergency fund and then call their boss to question their mental stability. Dad leaves without the reconciliation he came for, and I slide the deadbolt behind him with a finality that feels like freedom. The next morning, my phone pings with an unexpected message from Elise, Spencer's ex-wife. I saw Spencer's posts. You should know he did the same to me. I have records of everything if you need them. Dr. Stevens catches me in the hallway later that day. We're short-staffed next weekend. Double time for the overnight shifts if you're interested. I notice he doesn't ask why I need the money or offer sympathy, just practical support with no strings attached. The contrast to my family's constant demands is startling. That night, I open a fresh spreadsheet. Line by line, I document every loan, every gift, every financial contribution I've made to my family over the years. The final figure, $9,540, stares back at me, a precise accounting of years of financial manipulation. As I work, an email arrives from Aunt Judith. Needed to discuss some inconsistencies in the family trust accounts. Call me when you can. My finger hovers over the share button on my spreadsheet, the family group chat one click away. For the first time in years, I feel not just anger, but power, the clean, clarifying power of truth backed by evidence. The invoice is ready to send. The sun streams through my kitchen window as I finalize the invoice. I'm using accounting software from the hospital's financial literacy workshop designed for billing insurance companies, not family members. Each entry appears in crisp, professional formatting, dates, descriptions, amounts, all categorized with clinical precision. My fingers hover over the keyboard, steady now, unlike when I discovered the credit card theft. As of the 1st of June, I will no longer be contributing financially to the family. Repayment is expected within 45 business days. I type the words and attach the PDF. $9,540. Every cent accounted for, every loan documented. I hit send before I can second-guess myself, watching the email whoosh away to 5 recipients. Mom, Dad, Spencer, Reagan, and Aunt Martha, who manages the family trust. My phone rings within minutes. I ignore it, focusing instead on forwarding Elise's evidence to Aunt Martha in a separate email. Spencer's ex-wife had messaged me last night with bank statements showing a pattern of financial manipulation dating back years. I should have shown you these when we were still married. She wrote, I was afraid no one would believe me. Aunt Martha's response arrives while I'm packing an overnight bag. I've noticed financial irregularities in Spencer's trust withdrawals. This explains quite a bit. Can we speak when you return? A weight lifts from my shoulders as I book a weekend getaway to Asheville, a small bed and breakfast nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains. 3 hours away, just far enough to be unreachable. I power down my phone before pulling out of my apartment complex, savoring the silence. The family chaos erupts while I'm gone. Doctor. Stevens gives me the highlights when I return to work Monday morning, his salt and pepper eyebrows raised over reading glasses. Your brother has been busy, he says, sliding a coffee across the nurse's station. He's telling everyone you doctored those financial records to make him look bad. I take a sip, unsurprised. Let me guess, it backfired? Spectacularly. That ex-wife of his, Elise? She posted additional evidence to the family group chat. Bank statements, text messages, the works. Your cousin Caroline called me looking for you. Said she always wondered where your brother's money came from. I shake my head, remembering Mom's frantic voicemails. 8 of them waited when I turned my phone back on, each more desperate than the last. She'd apparently launched an emotional campaign, calling relatives to rally support against my cruel treatment of Spencer. The result? 5 separate family members contacted me privately expressing support. Uncle David's text was particularly satisfying. About time someone called them out. Your grandfather would be proud. That's not even the best part, Dr. Stevens continues, lowering his voice. The bank called Spencer for an interview about potential fraud patterns. I should feel victorious. Instead, a hollow ache spreads beneath my ribs as I realize how thoroughly my family's financial house of cards is collapsing. Later that evening, as I pack for another weekend away, this time to a lakeside cabin with actual fishing, I wonder if seeking full repayment is enough, or if I need to permanently distance myself from people who saw me as a resource rather than a daughter and sister. Would you sever ties completely, or maintain limited contact? The next week brings unexpected allies. Elise sends additional bank statements, highlighting dates when Spencer withdrew money immediately before I loaned him similar amounts. The pattern is unmistakable once laid bare. I kept these records because our divorce attorney needed them, she explains over coffee. I never thought they'd help you too. Aunt Martha calls next. I've temporarily frozen Spencer's access to certain accounts pending a full review, she says, her voice carrying the crisp authority that always intimidated me as a child. This isn't just about you, Corinne. The trust has fiduciary responsibilities. The most surprising call comes from HR at Dad's former accounting firm. Miss Vale, we're reviewing some historical expense reports filed by Emery Vale that show concerning patterns. We understand you've recently raised questions about family financial practices. Would you be willing to answer a few questions? I agree, providing only factual responses, neither defending nor condemning my father. The conversation leaves me nauseous but resolute. The family's financial house of cards continues its collapse throughout the week. Each new revelation should bring satisfaction, but I feel only a dull, persistent ache when I think about what we've become. I take extra shifts at the hospital, finding comfort in the straightforward problems of patient care. Reagan's social media campaign begins Thursday. First come vague posts about unfair treatment and family betrayal. By Saturday, she's sharing tearful videos describing their sudden financial hardship and how they might have to cancel their anniversary trip to Maui. Dad loses his consulting privileges at his former firm after their investigation concludes. He doesn't call to tell me I learned from Uncle David, who sounds more disappointed than surprised. The most unexpected development arrives in a series of text messages from extended family members. Cousin Caroline, I had no idea what was happening. I'm so sorry I didn't see it. Uncle Robert, your grandmother would be horrified at how they've treated you. Aunt Susan, we should have intervened years ago. Mom's message comes last, surprisingly brief after weeks of emotional tirades. We need to resolve this once and for all. Family dinner, Sunday at 5. Your father and I will cook. I stare at the screen, sensing the final confrontation approaching. For the first time in years, I feel no obligation to say yes. On Sunday, I arrive at my parents' house 15 minutes early, parking across the street rather than in the driveway. The April sun warms my face through the windshield as I review my notes one last time. Each figure, each date, each transaction, meticulously documented. I've prepared for this meeting, like I would for the most critical patient handoff. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. We're ready whenever you are. Ready. As if this were a casual family dinner instead of what it truly is, their last attempt to maintain control. When I enter through the front door, the forced normalcy hits me first. Dad's reading glasses perched on the coffee table beside his worn leather recliner. Mom's fresh-cut tulips arranged in the crystal vase I gave her 3 Christmases ago. The familiar scent of lemon furniture polish. Spencer and Reagan sit stiffly on the sofa, their usual sprawl replaced by perfect posture. Spencer's hair is neatly combed, Reagan's makeup subdued. This calculated presentation isn't lost on me. Corinne, Mom says, her smile tight as she motions to the armchair facing all of them. Thank you for coming. We've been so worried. I take the seat, setting my messenger bag beside me. I appreciate the concern. Dad clears his throat, fingers tapping a nervous rhythm against his knee. We think there's been a misunderstanding about the credit card situation. A misunderstanding? I repeat, the word hollow. We'd like to propose a compromise, Spencer says, leaning forward with uncharacteristic earnestness. We can arrange partial repayment of the airline tickets if you'll drop this whole investigation. Mom nods eagerly. It's what's best for moving forward together as a family. As a family, Dad echoes, his gaze skittering away from mine. I let the silence stretch between us until Mom shifts uncomfortably in her seat. You know, she says finally, voice dropping to a concerned whisper. Dr. Hendricks mentioned you've been under tremendous stress at the hospital lately. Sometimes stress can make us vindictive about small misunderstandings. The familiar heat rises in my chest, but this time, I welcome it. This anger has become my compass. I brought something to share with you, I say, reaching into my bag. I pull out a leather portfolio, my graduation gift from Dad when I finished nursing school, and place it on the coffee table. Inside is a stack of papers, organized by date, credit card statements, bank transfers, text messages. Each page represents a moment when my family treated my financial stability as their emergency fund. This is 8 years of financial manipulation. I say, voice steady as I lay out the pages one by one. Spencer's car repair, Reagan's boutique debt, the property tax you couldn't cover last year, Dad. Their eyes track my hands as I arrange the evidence between us. I've found a new apartment, I continue. One you don't have keys to. Spencer's jaw tightens. Corinne, I've refinanced my nursing school loans without your co-signatures, I add, looking directly at my father. The paperwork was finalized yesterday. Mom's face pales. You can't possibly afford the interest rate on your own. I can, and I do. I straighten the edges of the papers. I don't need to prove myself to people who see my success as their safety net. Dad's shoulders slump. We never meant. This isn't about money. I interrupt, surprising myself with my calm. It's about respect. It's about boundaries. You've taught me that I'm only valuable to this family when I'm useful. Dad looks up, something shifting in his expression. "We've taken advantage of your reliability," he admits quietly. "For years." Mom shoots him a warning glance, but he doesn't look away from me. I stand, walk to the entryway table, and retrieve my set of house keys from my pocket. The metal feels cold against my palm as I place them on the polished wood with a soft click. "What are you doing?" Mom demands, rising to her feet. "Setting boundaries." "After everything we've done for you," she says, voice trembling. "The dance lessons, the college application fees, That's the problem," I cut in. "You think basic parental support was a loan I need to repay forever." The silence that follows feels electric. Spencer stares at the floor, then looks up with reddened eyes. "I used your card without permission," he confesses, voice cracking. "Not just for the tickets. For months. I knew your Amazon password. I set up autofill for your card information." Reagan's composure finally breaks. "I knew about it," she whispers. "We both did. Your card was declined at the airport because we'd already maxed it out on other things." I absorb this final betrayal with unexpected steadiness. "And you," I say, turning to Dad. "Did you know too?" He nods once, unable to meet my eyes. "I can't do this anymore," I tell them, retrieving my portfolio but leaving the keys. "I deserve better than being your ATM." As I reach the door, Dad calls after me. "Will we see you again?" I pause, hand on the doorknob. "That depends on whether you want a daughter or a bank account." The door closes softly behind me. I walk to my car without looking back, the weight of their expectations finally lifted from my shoulders. 3 weeks later, rumors reach me through hospital gossip. Spencer's facing potential fraud charges from his own bank apparently. My credit card wasn't the only one he'd been using. Mom and Dad have gone silent, their usual weekly calls conspicuously absent. Dad shows up at my new apartment on a rainy Tuesday evening. His eyes are bloodshot as he stands in my doorway, refusing to come inside. "I enabled all of it," he says simply. "I should have protected you, not used you. I'm sorry, Corinne." I accept his words with a nod but make no promises. The following month, a certified envelope arrives at my apartment. Inside is a check for exactly $9,540, the precise amount from my invoice. No note accompanies it. None is needed. As I place the check on my kitchen counter, I realize with startling clarity that freedom isn't about forgiveness. Sometimes, it's about finally being seen. 3 months later, the light streams through uncovered windows in my new apartment, casting warm patterns across freshly painted walls. No more of the murky beige that had surrounded me for years now. Vibrant teal and sunny yellow brighten every corner. I hang a watercolor landscape, one I painted myself last weekend, adjacent to the window where morning light hits it perfectly. My phone chimes from the kitchen counter. For the first time in months, my shoulders don't tense at the sound. No more dread when checking notifications. No more anxiety about unexpected charges or family demands. "How's the new place looking, Doctor?" Stevens texts, with a photo of houseplants from the hospital gift shop. I send him a quick photo of my expanding collection, already thriving on my eastern-facing balcony. Beyond the plants, Denver's skyline glimmers in the distance. After my shift tonight, I'm leading a financial literacy workshop for new nurses. Protecting your financial health while caring for others seemed like the perfect topic after everything I've learned. Already, 3 younger nurses have scheduled private consultations about family financial boundaries. My easel stands in the corner, no longer collecting dust in storage. Last night, I stayed up until 2, working on a landscape of the Colorado mountains where I'll be hiking this weekend. The freedom to lose myself in painting again feels almost decadent after years of not enough time. My phone chimes again. This time, it's a family group text, another Vail family gathering next weekend. Mom has included me in the invitation list, her first attempt at contact since the check arrived. I type a simple response. "Thank you for thinking of me. I have other plans that weekend." No apologies, no elaborate excuses, just a clear, calm boundary. Instead, I'll be meeting Jonah for dinner at that new restaurant overlooking the river, our 3rd date. The anesthesiologist's calm presence and direct communication style have been refreshing after years of navigating my family's emotional minefields. Last week over coffee, he asked about my family. The question didn't trigger my usual anxiety. "We're taking some space from each other right now," I told him, surprised by how easily the words came. They crossed some boundaries I needed to establish. He nodded, understanding without demanding details. Family relationships can be complicated. Doesn't mean they're bad people or that you don't love them. Exactly, I replied, grateful for his perception. I'm just learning that love doesn't have to cost me my peace. Tonight, Elise, doctor. Stevens and my aunt are coming over to celebrate what Elise jokingly calls my financial independence day. A small gathering of people who supported me when I needed it most, expecting nothing in return. My aunt called yesterday to confirm she was bringing dessert. I have something for you, she mentioned. Just a small gift to mark the occasion. When they arrive, her package sits on my new coffee table, a framed calligraphy quote. You are not responsible for other people's comfort at the cost of your peace. The words shimmer against a watercolor background in my favorite blues and greens. We toast with sparkling cider in my new glasses. To boundaries that protect peace, Dr. Stevens offers, and people who respect them. 2. The next morning, I drive to Denver Memorial Hospital's foundation office. The woman behind the desk looks surprised when I hand her a check for exactly $9,540. I'd like this to establish a scholarship for nursing students who are supporting family members. I explain. Sometimes the caregivers need care too. Walking back to my car, I feel lighter than I have in years. On my dashboard sits my confirmation for the Advanced Cardiac Certification program I've applied for, alongside a brochure for the Telluride weekend Jonah suggested for next month. Back home, I pause before the shadow box hanging in my living room, the cashed check from my family mounted beside my old house keys. Not a trophy of victory, but a reminder of growth. Standing on my balcony, I water my new plants as morning light spills across the city. As I watch the sunrise from my own space, I wonder if forgiveness is always necessary for healing, or if sometimes the best closure is simply moving forward without looking back. What would you choose?